This is Autumn from This Machine Kills Music, and I am here with Justin Snow, who runs the website Antigravitybunny.
Yep.
And you have the radio show A Thick Mist,
Yes.
and previously Antigravitybunny. And these shows are on BFF.fm.
No longer, actually. Anti-Gravity Bunny Radio was what I started for doing a radio show, and it was pre-recorded on my computer, and then it would air live. Sorry, not live. It would air on BFF.fm out of San Francisco, and I switched to doing a live show instead of a pre-recorded show, and I did that because I started doing a live show on WMWM Salem, which is Salem State University's radio station. And so I was doing a live show on WM and recording it, and then I would edit it so that it could fit for BFF.fm. And I was doing a really terrible job at being consistent about how regularly I was doing my show. And I felt really bad for my friends at BFF.fm because I'm friends with the people who started the station, and I feel like I was taking advantage of them by doing what I was doing so badly. Like if I wasn't their friend, if I was just a regular DJ, they probably would have kicked me off the show, kicked me off air. And so I just kind of removed myself from BFF on my own. But I still do. So now it airs live on WMWM, and then I post it to my site afterwards for posterity and for people who aren't listening live.
So, can you tell us what exactly is A Thick Mist?
A Thick Mist it's a vinyl exclusive. I don't do any digital or CDs or tapes or anything. And I like to incorporate sort of all aspects of my musical interests. Early pre-war blues. I play new drone and noise. I play black metal and doom. I play Indian ragas and African drums and non-music stuff, so speeches, spoken word stuff, or recently I just did some farm sounds, or I really enjoy collecting non-music records, music that or records that don't have any music on it, and a lot of them are really weird. One of my favorite ones is a record of a guy pronouncing the scientific names of North American seashells.
Oh, I don't think I've
And
heard
it's just
that.
two sides of a dude reading Latin names of seashells, and that's it. And I find that absolutely fascinating. Why does that record exist? And so I enjoy collecting stuff like that and incorporating it into music on A Thick Mist.
Yeah, when I describe your show to people, that's what I usually say is you'll be playing kind of stuff, but you kind of put it together in this really amazing package. I think there was one episode where you had this cult hymns where they're talking and you had this other music playing in the background, and it just made it really just big and epic. That's just kind of what you do. You'll have shit kicking music.
Yeah,
You'll have straight up shit kicking music, but you'll play like black metal after, or overlay it, and it just sounds really interesting. Just all this stuff together. Even if you're not into that kind of stuff, the way you put it together just presents it as just crazy and awesome and really likable.
I appreciate that. I feel like I worry that the eclecticness of it might turn people off. If there are people who enjoy some of the drone or the blues or the folk music, but don't like the folk or not folk, the black metal or doom or the really noisy stuff, that it might be too polarizing, I guess, but I'm glad that there are some people that can hear stuff that they might not listen to outside of my show and still appreciate it within the context of the show.
Yeah, so it's not just oh, I play this and then I play this, here's some black metal, then here's this shit kicking music.
Right.
Just all put together really beautifully.
Thank you.
Which is kind of I wanted to ask, how do you decide what you're gonna play on A Thick Mist? What's your process for just figuring out an episode?
That's a good question. I generally will try to grab 4 or 5 records of different genres, I guess. So like 4 or 5 metal records, and then 4 or 5 blues records, and 4 or 5 world records, and some noise and drone and some non-music stuff. I'll pick out stuff like, oh, I want to play this record, and then when I'm actually doing the show, it will come together sort of spontaneously. Very rarely do I think while I'm pulling records for the show beforehand, like, I want to play this record and this record together. It usually will just happen during the show. For the most part, it's done on the fly and not while I'm selecting records.
It's a sign of a good DJ. I could just see that.
Thanks.
Let's talk a little bit about Antigravitybunny, because you can still listen to it on your website. You have everything archived.
Yes.
Which actually recently I'd made a scraper, so I could just, because you have the index right there, so I
Yes.
pretty much just took every episode, just have my laptop, so I just like have it at work when I'm downtime.
Nice.
But yeah, so what exactly, or was Antigravitybunny, and like how does it differ from a Thick Mist?
Okay, yeah. So Antigravitybunny is my website, and I started it 11 years ago. 2008, I think, is when I started it, and it started on Blogspot, like Blogger, and I was writing about everything. I was writing about video games and movies and music, and I eventually was like, you know what, I need to hone this down. So I started just writing about music. But I was also doing like news, like, if there was like a new record came out or whatever, or like a new single actually is a good example. So like I used to, new band, new single, like trying to get in that like hype machine mindset, and that I was like, I don't want to do this. So then I just started like writing reviews, and I was reviewing records, and sometimes I would review concerts, but for the most part I was just writing record reviews. And I stopped writing record reviews, not 100%, like I still put out 1 or 2 a year maybe, but I can't bring myself to write about music anymore. I feel too pretentious when I talk about music like that. And if I read what other people write about music, I feel like I see myself in what they're writing, and I feel bad about how I present music. So I decided that it would be better if I stopped writing about it and just played it.
Yeah.
And so I started doing Antigravitybunny Radio as sort of a replacement for writing record reviews, and then it just faded into entirely doing the radio and not reviewing music at all.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, and I feel like it's better that way, because instead of just like, hyping up a record or just like talking about it, you can literally just present it to them. Like that's why I feel like the radio show or DJ format's so much better, because it's like you just have this whole line where you play a bunch of stuff, and then people are like, oh, what was that? What is it? And they're interested, and they're waiting for you to tell them what it was.
Right.
Like, people definitely have to like hear it to believe it, because you can say this is great, and they're like, yeah, maybe I'll check it out. But
Right.
if you like force them to listen to it first, and then have them wanting to know what it is, I think it's a little bit better.
Yeah. I agree. I think I'm also able to, I can still talk about how much I love a record or why I love a record when I'm doing the show. And I'm also able to, I feel like I'm able to get more out there, because like I'll play like 10 or 20 records in a 2-hour period, and that's 10 or 20 records that I'm putting out once a week, in terms of me saying, this is good, this is what I listen to, and you might like it too. Whereas when I was reviewing stuff, it would be like maybe 1 or 2 records a week. And that was, quantity-wise, it was not the same.
Yeah, that's definitely the other like benefit of this format, is just so much stuff.
Yeah.
Because you had a few episodes of Antigravitybunny Radio where you just reviewed entire labels, and with that, you're able to just like pick something off of each album, out of the catalog and show it off. Although I think you started that in like 2013, and back then a lot of these labels you were able to do that because they only had like 20 releases.
Right. Yeah. Enemies List.
Yes.
Yeah.
think that was the first one you did.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed doing that.
We changed spots, a little bit quieter area.
That's fine.
We're trying to get that sweet rain ambiance and
Yeah,
it messed
right.
up. Try to work maybe more label stuff into thickness.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. So I have a hard time wanting to do like a thick mist as it is now, which is really eclectic, and then also have it like themed because it's hard to have a theme but also be eclectic. And I've tried to do that a couple of times in the past. When the whole issue with Standing Rock was going on, I did Native American music, and it wasn't exclusively Native American music, but I played a lot of Native American music, and I talked about like different organizations that were out there that you could like donate to or help support for Standing Rock. But that was kind of easy because there was like a cause. I feel like it's a little weird to do a label theme like I did with Antigravitybunny Radio on a thick mist. Not that I couldn't do it, but it just, I don't know. It would have to take a different form, I think, than the label Spotlight on AGB Radio, because that was like, here's a label I really like, and here, if I can, play everything that they've put out or like highlight stuff that they put out. And that was all the episode was. But if I did it with a thick mist, it would have to be, I think it would have to be different in some way.
Yeah, because I mean, like obviously Antigravitybunny and the thick mist kind of have like different purposes. Because the thick mist is definitely like you trying to just kind of package eclectic music to just show off, I think.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. And, you know, I feel like labels is kind of like easy because you're like, I like this label, here's some of the tunes. But I feel like people kind of just do that in general anyway. Like, I know if I find a good new label, I kind of just look at a bunch of their stuff.
Right.
But it's almost more effective to just kind of like play something really good from the label in the mix and say, that's also on this label, check it out.
Right.
Like you do with the compilations, which is something I really like about the show. You talk a lot about compilations, and I don't know. I feel like people need to just check them out more. Compilations are great.
No, I feel the same way. I was kind of averse to compilations when I was younger, but now, especially with like early blues music, country blues, like there's a lot of the artists never put out a full record. Like they never recorded enough music to make a full record. So maybe, I mean, there's only 2 or 3 songs by this one artist, and you're only going to hear it on a compilation unless you find the original shellac or something, which I'm not into. So that the compilation is like the only way to go. And there's a lot of really good early blues and folk compilations that help me find out artists that I've never heard of before.
Yeah, a lot of these labels do such a good job, the compilations. They like clean them up, make it sound nice. And I feel like a lot of these singles like sound good when they're part of like the full package. Like if you listen to it all together, just like, here's this label presents some mountain blues music, you're like, yeah, you're really into it because they know it sounds good.
Right.
That's why I really do love Finders Keepers.
Yeah.
I like find an album and like, oh, they put that out. Like they definitely do a good job. Comps are good. And that's kind of like what I feel like a thick mist is. It's kind of like a really weird, it's like the eclectic compilation. Like,
You're right. You're right. I'm kind of making my own compilation. Like going back to what you said about how a thick mist is different than Antigravitybunny Radio. I feel like I'm more able to be more creative with a thick mist than I was with Antigravitybunny Radio, because I kind of pigeonholed myself with AGB Radio, and with a thick mist I feel way more free to get creative. So that's a big difference between them.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta ask you, like, what made you start all this?
Okay, so I went to school at Salem State University, Salem State College back then, and I mean I work there now and I do my radio show there now, but when I was there as a student, I was part of the radio station. I was a DJ and the music director and the general manager, and just really involved, and I really liked radio. And one of the reasons I chose Salem State to go to was because it had a radio station. And then when I graduated, I wasn't able to do a radio show anymore. I needed some sort of outlet, so I decided to start Antigravitybunny to talk about music and share what I've found with other people, because I don't have a lot of like close friends where we just talk about music. I mean, the friends that I have are from WM, and I wanted to talk about music with more people. So started a blog to do that. And then after a while, I realized that I missed doing radio, so I started doing the pre-recorded show, Anti-Gravity Bunny Radio, and that worked for a little bit, but I realized I still missed the live aspect of radio, so I switched from pre-recorded to doing a live show, and the only way I was able to do that was by doing it at a radio station instead of sitting in my office at home at my computer. So
That makes sense.
yeah,
I definitely get the sentiment though. Like I feel like the more when you're really into music, the more you discover, you kind of just have this inclination to like you want to share more because some of this has just made you feel so like good and emotional. And it's really weird. It almost feels like it's more about you want to share like that same emotion than like even the music itself. Like you think you feel that way? Is that kind of one of the reasons you made this, just to share like the
yeah,
emotions the stuff's made you feel?
absolutely. I mean, some music can be really powerful, and there's powerful in a good way and also powerful in a bad way. But I hope that the reaction that I have to some music is something that people can also have a similar reaction to.
Yes.
So, and not just sharing like the knowledge or whatever, but the actual experience of it is definitely what I'm going for.
Exactly. Like when I hear something good, like even the other day I heard something was really amazing, and it's like this inspires me to like I want to make now like a list of this genre, and I want to put this in the list because I want people to just experience how good this is.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I guess like a big kind of open-ended question I want to ask you is just how do you find your new music? How do like what is your process for finding new music? Because it's everyone's a little bit different, but
Yeah. For new music, defined as like newly released music, I will usually get emails from like promos. I guess that's pretty much it. Like from email, either through promos or through mailing lists that I've signed up for. So like, I'm on the Important Records mailing list, so I know when they release a new record. I don't really like go to other music sites for news, like Stereo Gum or Pitchfork or whatever. Like that's I don't, not that they aren't good at that. That's just not the way I look for new music. I also will. Oh, here's a good one. The Bandcamp email that goes out where you
every
see what,
Friday
yeah, where you see what other people, what your friends and followers
are
purchased.
buying,
Yeah,
yes.
that's really helpful. I feel like that's a great way to find out what my friends are listening to without actually having to like bug them about it
Yes.
or like really follow them closely on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So that's super helpful, and that's also about newly released music. In terms of new to me music that's
Yeah.
not newly released, I mean, just go to record stores and browse through the bins. One of my favorites is Record Exchange here in Salem. The owner of the shop, Paul, he and I are pretty friendly, and he knows what I like, and he'll either hold stuff for me, knowing that I will be really interested in it, or he'll like when I come in, he'll be like, "Oh, here's like some new stuff that came in that you should check out," and he'll pull stuff out from the back room that isn't even like out on the floor yet because he's like, "I know Justin, you'll like this," so that's really helpful for finding new to me music, but also there's certain labels that I know and trust,
Yes.
like Folkways or Blues Classics or World Pacific or Connoisseur Society, that like if I find a record that's on that label, I can almost guaranteed that I'll enjoy it. I'll pretty much buy any Folkways record, even if it's something that I know I won't like musically. I have sort of a collector mentality with that label, which is unfortunate because they've released like thousands of records. But they're really interesting. One of my early favorites that I found from them was a record called "The Sounds of Insects," which is literally just like super mic'd, close mic'd insects like walking or flying or whatever.
Just some proto lowercase. That's all it
Exactly,
is.
exactly. Yeah. So Folkways puts out non-music records like that, and they'll also put out stuff like, Elizabeth Cotton, and they'll put out stuff like Tunisian folk or something like that.
Yeah.
So I love that label. So that's another way that I find new music, is just by trusting certain labels to guide me.
Yeah, it's definitely like what I tell people, or I feel like some people might have a hard time finding music, or it's just so much. It really is overwhelming, and
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those things, just like books. The more you're into it, the more you realize just how much you don't know.
Right.
I mean, you experience that even just walking into a record store, because I consider myself, pretty, like, knowledgeable. Like, I know there's just, like, tons of stuff, but I go there and I'm just like, I just don't know any of this. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But usually, my big thing is artists I like. I like this, like what they like or what they're influenced by.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like the What's in My Bag series so much, is
Yeah.
because you get so many recs. Or I like to read liner notes of like who's involved.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one. And of course, for me personally, Discogs is just the biggest blessing ever.
Yes.
Their UI is great, so I just go like, I can just click on the genre. The label, of course. Labels is probably my main way as well. Like, if I like this label, because you just go to the album you like, go on their label, and everything else is good. It's.
I recently went through some of my favorite labels, like some of the ones that I just mentioned, and went to Discogs and just added them all to my want list. If there was a record that was vinyl that they released, like, it didn't matter who it was or what it was, like, I just added it to my want list. I was like, I'm gonna find out about this eventually, so I might as well put it on my radar somehow now, because there's no way I'm gonna remember.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Discogs is a saint for that.
I know, it's really good. Although I kind of use my want list for like stuff I know I'm never gonna buy. I have like super rare stuff that's never been sold, and like stuff that's just like thousands of dollars. I'm like, I just want to look at it, or maybe that one, or maybe that one person just somehow ends up posting this box set for like $300 instead of $1,000. It's like I'm gonna get it.
Yep, I'm the same way. Just like holding on to a thread of hope.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It does happen though, but that's part of the thrill too. Just like music and vinyl collecting in general, because it really is like a thrill of the hunt. And music specifically, you're never gonna hear it all, and you're never gonna like own it all or hear it all. It's forever, which it's so good. Just like a lot of weird happiness in that. Just not, you like come full circle. You get really distraught because there's so much you don't know and you want to know, but then you're like kind of happy because you never will know, and it's forever, and
it'll never run out.
Exactly. Nope. Because as much as a lot of people say new music isn't good, there's so much good new music. That's why a show like yours I feel is so important, because it's just, there's such a surface level of music. I always think of like a Venn diagram. It's like how much music people think there is like this tiny little circle in the corner, and the whole actual picture is just this giant circle of how much music there actually is.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I feel it's important for just like indie blogs in general, or just people posting out music in general, because so many people just actually focus on, like the little guys, or people just like actual indie artists, posting stuff, where the big guys are good, like, Pitchfork, Stereo Gum, Tiny Mixtapes, Anthony Fantano, but they kind of all just end up talking about the same stuff, or like something big comes out, they'll talk about it, and, I like their opinions sometimes, but it's not like, Bandcamp stuff, the people with like 5 tapes they're selling.
Yeah. It's not like they're writing about stuff you've never heard of.
Pretty much. Which, again, I like your show, because you definitely are like into like the Bandcamp stuff. Especially with Antigravitybunny, you had like so much just interesting stuff. Kind of want to ask, like, when did you start like really like liking music, I guess, or appreciating it? Like, everyone kind of has like story of when it just kind of like clicked, like, I'm into music, like beyond like, the adolescent obsession.
Right. I can't remember a time where I wasn't obsessed with music. I guess my earliest memory is my dad would put on the Beach Boys in concert record, on his stereo, and you'd be able to hear it throughout the house, and like that was our cleaning music.
Yeah.
And it was like, I loved that record. I love the Beach Boys. And from then, like every point of my life, I've always been like obsessed with something. So like I guess like when I first started looking for music, it was through my mom and my older sister. My mom listened to oldies and country music, so like I was really into like Dion and the Belmonts and like
Nice.
Garth Brooks, and my sister was really into like um, pop music, so like Boys to Men and TLC and like that sort of '90s stuff, and Hanson, definitely
Nice.
Hanson, yeah. And so like I enjoyed all of that because that was what I knew, and
Yeah.
it was good. And then once I like hit middle school, I think I was seeking out music on my own, and I remember seeing kids wearing Nirvana shirts and Korn Life is Peachy shirts, and I was like, what are these bands? And so I started like looking for that. And then I was on all sorts of like IRC channels and
Mm.
like Whereas forums, and not that Whereas is music, but like
Soul Seek.
yeah, exactly. Like I was all about that Napster life, and just downloading anything and everything and finding like these weird FTP sites where I could just like download like tons of albums, like trance records
Hell yeah.
from like on my 56K modem that would take like 3 hours to download one
Yes.
record. And so I was like obsessed with that. And then I started working next to a record store
Oh, the
in high
dream.
school. Yeah, so I just like, I can remember every payday I would walk over and just they had a new release rack, and I would just like literally pick up pretty much any new metal CD that they had. And that's like I bought like Mudvayne and Cold and like all sorts of like
Some 41.
yeah, some 41, yeah, all that Good Charlotte, like yeah, um, I was I was obsessed with everything along the way. And I think where I got into like weirder music,
Yes, I was gonna ask that.
yeah, so I specifically remember going to WM, and one of my friends who I met at WM, I was sitting in on one of his shows, and he was playing a song by Alluvium
Mm.
from Talk Amongst the Trees, and I was like, this is what I need. I need more of this. And
Yes.
so that kind of like put me off on the weird, the like more experimental music.
Yes.
And like post rock, I started getting into post rock before um, experimental stuff. And I remember hearing Starla by the Smashing Pumpkins and thinking like, this is unlike whatever else they're doing. It's unlike the other music that I've heard. And it was like, it was, instrumental and epic. And I realized that sort of like kind of got channeled into a genre called post rock. So it was like
Mm.
Godspeed and Mogwai and all that sort of stuff really opened my eyes to the different types of music, like especially Godspeed, because they incorporate like field recordings and stuff, and like they have
Yeah.
really chill moments, and like Mogwai has those mellow songs, and it was like, this is different, and I want to hear stuff that's not what I'm hearing everywhere else.
Exactly. Yeah, Godspeed definitely is very versatile. Because I probably don't listen to their main project that much, but I really love like Set Fire to Flames.
Yes.
Like
Oh,
Set Fire to
man.
Flames, definitely the field recordings and just like the premise behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I do like a Silver Mount Zion
Oh my
as
god,
well.
I love Silver Mount Zion.
Silver Mount Zion's definitely the first time I put on one of their albums. I was like, all right, whoa.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you kind of become addicted to that feeling. Like you look for it, you want that whoa moment.
Yep.
Like oh man.
Yeah, getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why I do what I do and what you do, because you just want to invoke those goosebumps. You want
Yep.
that whoa moment in other people.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite labels besides just collecting obscure folk stuff, or
Right.
just in general for like general listening?
One of the ways I organize my records at home is, so like I organize them by genre, and then I also have like label sections. So I take out records and like I've
type records and important records and Thrill Jockey and Temporary Residence, and Gilead Media and the Flenser. Some of the newer labels, so those are ones that are like big enough that I can have their own section. But then there's other labels that are a little newer. Like one of the ones that I've been kind of obsessed with lately is Subtext. When I first found out about them was like with their Paul Jabanasam and Raleigh Porter. Like those were two records that came out, I want to say like maybe 2015 or something like that. And I was like, this is crazy electronic weird music.
Yes. Raleigh Porter, and I heard that.
Yeah.
That's a mind blower.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so they started being consistent enough that I was like, I'll buy anything. I'll listen
Yes.
to anything that they put out. I would say Subtext is one of my new favorites that I've just been kind of obsessed with lately.
You play a little bit of Raleigh Porter. I think sometimes I listen to your show and I'm like, oh, that was really good. And a lot of times like, oh, it's Raleigh Porter. Or Alluvium. Play that one off. I'm like,
yeah.
that was probably Alluvium. It's got that really warm sound to it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have that box set of Alluvium, the Life Through Bombardment?
Yeah, volumes 1 and 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was really, really psyched when they put that out, because like when the first one came out, he didn't have anything on vinyl. Like everything had come out on CD, and I was like, I need the vinyl. And the fact that like they have your name written on it is just
like a library card.
Yeah, like the library card.
Yeah,
man, I love that.
It's wicked cool.
Yep.
Well, I guess speaking of like Alluvium and all that, I feel like there's so much ambient out there, and ambient's definitely something you play pretty often on your show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody has their own reason for liking ambient, or like they look for a certain thing in ambient.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say you like in an ambient track?
I like ambient as both as a focal point. Like I will put on an ambient record and listen to it like intently and listen for the layers and the fluctuations and the dynamics and all that sort of stuff that are really subtle, but also will use ambient as background music for like working, or use it in my show as like a layer, like a foundation track or something like that. I don't really know how I determine what I do and don't like in terms of ambient. Usually when there are vocals, that is usually a turn off, because I don't want to be distracted by somebody's voice. A major exception to that is Juliana Barwick, because a lot of her music is vocal based, and you can tell it's her voice, and sometimes there's lyrics, but it's
kind of just part of like
it's just part of
ambient.
it. It's heavenly, and I love it. I don't really know how I determine what's good and bad.
I just kind of know.
Yeah, I just kind of know, and I also just like most of it. Like, I can't think of any ambient artist that I dislike. I'm sure I've heard ambient that wasn't for me, and I never went back to it, but I don't remember who or why.
That's true. I mean, I feel like as ambient as a genre, that there isn't like too much bad stuff. I felt more some of it can be kind of samey, or I look for ambient that like stands out. That's the thing. That's why I feel electronic music in general. Like a lot of it's just like it's it's good, but it's just good. It kind of like flatlines a little.
Right.
I also put ambient on the background. I feel like it's something that kind of makes you stop for a moment and look up. And you're like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like you're doing something, and you're just like it kind of creeps in, and you're like, all right, this is really good.
Yeah.
I guess talk about ambient and go on to drone, like what makes good drone, because drone has a little bit more to it, and you play a lot of drone on the show.
I play a lot of drone. So I have kind of a wide definition of drone, but so one type of drone that I really like is the kind that is super minimal and really like blissful, like kind of super harmonic, like euphoric. It makes me really happy hearing a really pure sound and just beautiful. And I also really like drone. Good example is Superstorms, which was released by Experior Media. a few years ago. Superstorms is Michael Tolan, Michael Tolan, who's in the also records as Talons. Superstorms is like not smooth or soft. It's really gritty, textured, kind of staticky, but it was so bombastic and like wall of sound. It was sort of like if harsh noise was less harsh.
It's very visceral. It's a lot like
Yeah.
I Am a Lake of Burning Orchids.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Super visceral and like something that can never be loud enough.
Yeah.
So that is something that I want to feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by the sound, which is one of the reasons I really like seeing music live, is because you can feel it, and I can't feel it with my stereo at home.
Absolutely. I think it's a good definition of good like noise too.
Yeah.
That can do that. Speaking of, I gotta ask the big question: is noise music?
Oh man, hell yeah, noise is definitely music. I think music is whatever you want music to be. Like if you hear this HVAC system going in the background, like
Yes.
subtle hum, like if you find that musical, then that's that's for you. I don't think noise is any less music than like
Rock.
Jackson 5 or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
That's a really good answer too, and people definitely like it. 'Cause how many people fall asleep to the fan going on
Right?
AC? Like,
Yeah.
see, everyone's secretly a noise fan.
That's right.
I guess more genre questions. Taking a little bit of a left turn. I noticed you play like some witch house or some weird stuff like that on your channel. How do you feel about just like vaporwave or vaporwave in general, and like future funk and all these like kind of crazy like esoteric internet genres? Like, what do you think of those?
That's funny. So I think internet genres is a really good way to put it. I have sort of stepped away from those genres lately. Lately, within like the past few years, I was really into finding like new internet music when Witch House was getting big, and Salem and Purity Ring are the two artists that I really got hooked on, and I still love them. I wish I could have seen Salem live, although I heard they're not, at least way back when like their first single came out, weren't great live, but I still would really like to see them. I don't even know if they're still a band, but so Witch House, like I can get into. I think there are a lot of elements of Witch House that I enjoy, but there's also some Witch House that is like too.
It's a little low effort.
Yeah.
I think is the issue.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it.
Which is kind of the problem with some of these internet genres.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I think they're very like open. Like anybody, it's definitely can show that anybody can make music, which they can,
Right,
absolutely. But
right.
it definitely kind of shows it. But obviously, that lets in a lot of like kind of low effort stuff. Noise is
Right.
kind of the same too.
Yeah.
There's like really excellent stuff, and there's stuff that's like this person's just being on a synth. They're just like, I can do it, so I just
Right.
made this, and I'm gonna name it this because I can.
Right. Right.
Which I feel like it's kind of a big issue right now, especially in vaporwave. It's very like polarizing. And a lot of people, and even those genres, I feel like a lot of people kind of stick to like the OGs or like stuff that's well known, and they don't
Right.
want to give new stuff a chance.
Right.
But it's also from the other side kind of understandable because there's so much low effort stuff that they're
Right.
kind of afraid.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah, that's actually a really good reason why I haven't pursued much vaporwave. Like, I remember hearing Floral Shop for the first time and being like, this is really interesting. I'm not sure I like it, but it's really interesting.
yes. Yes.
Especially because, like, one of my friends was, like, praising it like crazy. Like, he was just hyping it up. And I was like, all right, man, I totally need to hear this. And it didn't dazzle me as much as it dazzled him. And so from that, I was like, okay, I can like, I'll let this into my life, like this genre, but I never really sought it out very much. And like, anytime I really come across it, it's not something that is it doesn't really hook me. It's a little, I don't know. There's just something about it that just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, there's definitely just like a sea of stuff, and then
Yeah.
the good stuff comes up. It's kind of how I feel about, because I really like future funk. Not
Yeah.
a big vaporwave, but I really like future funk. But there's a lot of it that's very like same sounding and
Yeah.
not unique. But I don't know, I still dig through it because I feel like when I find the really good stuff, it's like really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I can understand why someone wouldn't want to like go through that in general. And I think that's kind of why, in general, a lot of people who say they're into music are kind of still cling to like the same things,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think is a negative thing. But I was kind of gonna ask that, like, like why do you think some people just really don't like get into music to like keep looking up new music?
I think it's easy to stop seeking new music when the new music that you hear is like maybe just on the radio or something.
Mm.
And I don't want to like shame this guy, so I'm not going to name him.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No, I understand.
So a friend of mine who makes music, he was out of the like scene, I guess, or whatever. Like he, got a professional job, still kind of made music, but not really. He like took a break for a while, and then he came back and he asked me. He was like, "Justin, how do you find new music? Like I don't even know what's going on anymore." And so I showed him Bandcamp, and he was like blown away by it. And
Absolutely.
so now he uses Bandcamp like religiously. But so I think it's easy to kind of step back and then not know where to start anymore, and just kind of be like, all right, I have what I have, and I like what I like, and I'm happy with it. Some people just don't feel the need to go to make the effort, I guess, because there is an effort involved in finding new music.
Absolutely.
And people are happy with what they have, so they don't have the time or effort to go forward with find new stuff.
Yeah, that is definitely understandable because it is an effort. Because I would consider one of my big main hobbies look up music, and I feel like that's like when I have a day off. That is like my day off. I kind of have to like
Right.
plan it, like 'cause I have like a little notebook where I write stuff down. But
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna check out this label. And I have a whole backlog, and I check
Mhm.
it out, and it's it can be exhausting. And there are some days where it's like a lot of it's just like not good, and then there's some days where it's like gem after gem. You're like, wow,
Yeah. Speaking of making lists, that reminded me of another way that I used to find new music, which was Aquarius Records. Their weekly or bi-weekly, it was bi-weekly, mailing list where they would review. That's actually where I found out about Have a Nice Life and Death Consciousness. They reviewed that record. And they had the widest range of taste because there was a bunch of people involved, and
Nice.
they would write about music that they only had like 20 copies of this tape was released, and they're like, we're going to write about it, and it's going to sell out because there's only 20 copies. But they wrote about some really crazy stuff, and I loved waiting for that list to come out so I could just read over it and write down the names of all these musicians that I'd never heard of.
Yes.
Like Machine Fabric. Like I remember finding out about his record Marine, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I found out about that through them, and I was like, okay, I kind of wish I didn't find out about him because he's way too prolific, and there's no way to keep up with all the music that he makes.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, so Aquarius Records, rest in peace. I loved their mailing list. That was definitely a big way for me to find out about new music. Sorry for the tangent.
No, that's great. It is unfortunate of they're no longer around. But speaking of Bandcamp, they do kind of the same thing. So every Friday, at least they'll email you like 5 albums that they think you might like based on like your purchase history.
Really?
Yeah, like I kind of look forward to it now because I found some good stuff. Although I had just recently bought all of Business Casual stuff, so like they keep wrecking me all this vaporwave. I'm like, no Bandcamp. I want some of that.
You got it wrong.
Some of that dark ambient and stuff. But a lot of times, still, they'll suggest you good stuff. They usually throw in an article, I think, or like the random article, and they talk about all kinds of stuff. Like the most recent article they wrote about Black House, which is this like old school Christian industrial that a lot of people don't know about.
Never heard of Black House
Exactly.
before.
And I was like, really?
That's
Like,
cool.
and they had an article before that about just like Japanese jazz specifically, so stuff like that, which is really cool. So
Nice.
it's definitely what I mean. Bandcamp in general is just really amazing.
Yeah.
'Cause that was kind of stuff I was gonna ask you, like, you know, how do you feel about Bandcamp? Do you think this is like the best way for musicians to go now? You think this website should be like the best future
Yeah.
for music?
Absolutely. I think Bandcamp is doing wonders for the music industry, especially for DIY artists who want to be able to sell their music or share their music. And Bandcamp makes it really easy to discover and hear and purchase music. Their setup is perfect. Like, I despise SoundCloud for so many
Oh,
reasons.
me too.
And if I'm like looking for information about an artist, like, and I want to hear them, if they only have a SoundCloud,
Yes.
I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother.
Oh
I
my-
hate SoundCloud so
I
much.
say that all the time. I literally do feel that way. Spotify, I'll accept it. You know,
Yeah,
they send me a Spotify
same.
link, but I literally have
Yep.
said the exact thing verbatim.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate when I'm looking up something, and then
Yep.
how do you not have a Bandcamp? All right.
Right? I know. Yeah.
I get like mad.
Yep.
Like, I'll look at stuff like, you know, website, you know, Bandcamp. Oh, you gotta
Yeah.
SoundCloud? No.
Yep.
Nope. Yeah, but yeah, Bandcamp is excellent, and I kind of realized recently it's almost like a modern day musician business card because even yesterday when I was in Triple R, the person I was with is also a musician, and this young guy comes in and he talked about that he has this project, and like they both have projects, and the guy said his project name and the Bandcamp link, you know, and then he's looking it up and he finds it, he's like, is this you? And it's like, yeah, and then, you know, you can tell that other guy, like, here's my project, you know, he
Right.
looks it up on his phone because, you know, we live in the age of smartphones,
Right.
and it's, you know, and then you can just follow each other right there.
Yeah.
And then he saw the other kid had tapes for sale right there. You can buy it right there. Like, it's,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to carry around tapes or anything anymore.
No.
Bandcamp links, like, it's
So
really,
convenient.
it's just really good. And the other thing too, which I've been using Bandcamp for a few years, but I didn't know this was a thing until recently, which I feel really silly, is on the front homepage you can just see what's being bought, like right now in real time.
Really?
Yeah. I
I don't know if
it's-
I've ever gone to their homepage.
I know. But I don't know if this is new or old, but like I've been on it a few times. So the front page, like there's like a row where you can just see what's being bought.
That's
anytime.
cool.
And I'm definitely one of those people where I just look for cool covers and I just
Yeah.
click on it. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know? I'm
No.
definitely. I love those like really, like, lo-fi pastel looking covers. I'm like, I bet that's some ambient stuff. It's just like the
Yeah.
corner of a tree and like a blue sky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, judging a book by its cover is, I mean, people, I don't know if that's so much a saying anymore, not to judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
I think maybe they mean that about people.
Yeah.
But, like, in regards to books and records, that is, like,
100%.
yeah, you need to. Like, I mean,
You
that's
have to.
very frequently your first, like, interaction with a book or a record, so it matters.
Yeah, there's so much out there, like, you have to, like, you get, like, a pile, or you see a chart or a list or whatever, you basically just have to go on, like, what am I gonna listen to first? Well, that has, like, you know, a half-naked woman of two tigers in front of a castle. I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do that. I should have asked this earlier, but I was just curious of just, like, you know, simple question, why is it called, you know, Antigravitybunny? I see you got the
Oh.
tattoos of rabbits.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is,
that's actually a really, this is, so my happy place is floating bunnies. Like, I think there's just the idea of a bunny floating. Like, I've had bunnies in the past. I don't have any bunnies anymore, but one day we were just sitting around and one of my bunnies, this guy was, that's Hodge, was like just sprawled out on the floor, and we thought it would be really funny if he just started like floating, because he was really droopy, and I was like, that would be amazing. So just the idea of floating bunnies is really
Anti-gravity
yeah,
bunnies.
yeah. So that's why they're floating on balloons, because that's like the realistic way that bunnies could float.
That's cute.
I
Yeah.
don't think a bunny floating in air uh, is ever going to happen unless they're tied to a balloon.
Unless they're tied to a
So
balloon.
that's why that happened. They're happy, by the way. A lot of
No,
people
they
will
look
like
happy.
see that there's like something hanging from strings and they think they're like being hung or they're on like a carousel or something. But
Then you lift up
there's-
your
and it's
sleeve.
like, oh
and
no,
it's...
they're balloons.
Yeah. They're really cute tattoos.
Yeah.
I can't see, and they're like
Thank
very
you.
simple.
Yeah, my
Very
wife drew
nice.
both of these actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of your wife, I see on Instagram like you're definitely like a family guy, always posting your
Yes.
your dog and your family and all that.
Mhm. Yeah.
What do they think of like your music addiction and this? How do you find time? It's the big question. How do you find time
Yes.
between the family and the music?
So, for the most part, my wife and my daughter are not into the music that I listen to. I mean, I'll listen to like, old country blues at home, and they're okay with that. But if I put on a Black Metal record,
Yeah.
that's almost forbidden. And drone is very specific criteria of whether or not it can or cannot be played at home.
Yes, understandable.
So, when my daughter was younger, she's like 3.5 now, but when she was younger, I could put on anything and she would be fine with it. But now, if I put on something, she's like, I don't want to hear this. Put on the Moana record. So I have to I'll debate with her about what I can and can't listen to. But I don't listen to as much music as home as I want to for the reasons I just stated.
Yeah.
And another reason why I started doing a live radio show is because the pre-recorded show, even though it was a 2-hour-long show, it would take me like at least 4 hours to like start to finish between getting the new music like into my software and then like picking it out and then putting it all together and recording the overdubs and putting it on to BFF.FM, and like it was just taking forever. So doing a live show is way quicker, and that means that I can do the show without taking too much time out of like my personal life. So that helps. But in terms of like listening to new music, I do almost all of my new music listening at work at my office because I have pretty much a computer job, desk job. So I have my speakers and I can close my door and
Yeah.
and do it that way so that my family doesn't have to be bombarded with horrible sounds.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Ideally, though, what do you think is like the best way to listen to new music? Like, I feel like walking and listening to music is the best way for me personally. I can't just sit there and just like it's time to listen to an album. I mean, if you could, like, what do you think? Again, ideally, is the best way to listen to new stuff.
Honestly, I rarely have time to do this, but my favorite thing is to put a record on my turntable and sit on the couch while I'm holding the record jacket and just listen to that record and like look at the artwork and read the liner notes and whatnot. That hardly ever happens anymore. But second to that would be like walking, like you said. Like I used to have a really long commute. I would walk for about a half hour and then take a train and subway for about an hour. So I had like an hour and a half at least each way to and from work. And I used that to listen to music. And my headphones were good, but like the subway was just so loud that I couldn't listen to like quiet music. So that was definitely a problem. But I really, really like just walking and listening to music. I think that's really a really good way to get immersed in the music.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I feel like I have to move when I listen to music. To, like...
Yeah.
Also, the subway's really good for listening to electronic music.
Yes.
It's really weird. I still remember one of the first times I went on the subway, and there's one right in Boston. Like you can see like a little bit of the harbor, like when you're over it.
Oh yeah.
And they have like all the people jogging, and I'm just listening to this like really hard techno, and I see people jogging over this harbor, and you get to see the subway. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's definitely like some music definitely is contextual, or it like changes your opinion about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something. I mean, you shouldn't force yourself to like an album, but I definitely feel like sometimes it's definitely different when you listen to it again.
Yeah, it helps to have the right context.
Yeah. I mean, how many times would you say you probably listen to something before you decide you like it? Because there's definitely sometimes it's something you're like, no, like, you don't like it, but...
Yeah, there. Depending on how much I don't like it, I either will not finish the record or I'll finish it but never listen to it again.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's pretty rare. But for the most part, I will listen to an album two, at most three times before I decide that I don't like it. And it's usually not that I dislike it, it's that like there's nothing about it that's hooking me or like making me, it's not memorable, and I don't have a strong desire to go back to it. The only time I'll ever really go back to a record that didn't catch me the first two or three times is if some friends are talking about it and like really praising it, or saying that, like, you know, talking about why they love it, then I'll probably give it another shot. But for the most part, just two times, three times, and that's...
Yeah.
Three times is pretty rare. It's usually just twice. If I listen to it once and I'm like scrolling through my like whatever, and I see that the record again, I'm like, I know I listened to this, but I don't remember it at all, so I'll listen to it again. And if after that second time it doesn't grab me, then I'm probably never going back to it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's definitely like the grab factor. Like, there's definitely albums to listen to, and I'm like, this isn't bad. It's kind of good, but it's not grab me. So I usually put like a neutral feeling on it. In a way, I'm like, this is like, we'll try it again. And because sometimes you definitely get exhausted on music too. Like, that's definitely a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like to ask, what do you think of those studies that come out that say people stop trying to look for new music after the age of 30 specifically?
Oh no!
Yeah,
I've never seen that. That headline is scary. I guess I understand it.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but there's a lot of these older gentlemen on YouTube who like talk about like metal records and vinyl, and you know, they're a bit older and they're still, you know, picking up stuff, checking stuff out. So I don't know if I can believe it.
Yeah, I feel like that might be true with... I feel like my mom is a perfect example. Like, she used to listen to the radio with like the country station or the oldie station, and she had like a few CDs that she would listen to, or tapes or whatever, but she doesn't listen to music now, like, at all. It's not a part of her life. She doesn't listen to the radio. She doesn't have any way to listen to music. I mean, she has a smartphone, but she doesn't use it to listen to music. And I feel like that's pretty indicative of the majority of the population in America, is that like they're done. They're not looking for anything else. They're probably not even listening to a whole lot. I feel like if music is important, then it doesn't matter how old you are. You're not going to stop looking for it.
That's what I feel. And maybe there's just maybe they're still hoping they just haven't heard the right thing.
Right.
And you know, putting it all together, I feel like that's why just having blogs and shows like yours, Put Top Music, can just have that, because...
Yeah, make it easier for people to find new music.
Exactly. You just, you know, tune in, you might hear something again, you just feel reinvigorated, or even if it's just that album you like, but music definitely I believe can change your life.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, some people like say when they take a shower, that's when they like think about a lot of like life stuff and make big decisions. Right. I feel like that way of music. I feel like music's definitely influenced like how I feel about things. Right? I'm always thinking about like stuff I have to do in life and decisions while I'm, you know, listening to angry British men yell over banging trash cans. I think I had one really weird question I want to ask, so we can end on this. Have you ever heard of the like phenomenon of Stendhal syndrome?
Yes. Let me try and remember what it is.
Well, I can just tell you too.
Yeah, tell me. I don't...
So, Wikipedia says it's a psychosomatic condition involving rapid heartbeat, dizziness, fainting, confusion, and even hallucinations allegedly occurring when individuals become exposed to objects or phenomena of great beauty. Do you think there's ever been an album that's induced Stendhal syndrome to you?
So, I can't think of a record, but I can think of a concert. I have only traveled outside the country once. I went to Italy in 2006, maybe, 2005, somewhere around there. Um, and it was for a month because my wife and I were doing a semester abroad sort of thing, like school. And Sigur Rós was touring, and they were playing in Rome. And this was before Talk came out. It was after Untitled, but before Talk. And she and I loved Sigur Rós. When I found out that they were playing in Rome while we were going to be in Italy, I was like, we need to go to this.
Yes.
And they played in an old, like, amphitheater that was outdoor. It was like,
oh, wow.
like ancient Roman amphitheater.
So perfect.
Yeah, it was so perfect. And the last song that they played was the closing song on Untitled, that like crazy epic song. And when they like hit that crescendo, like I just like fell apart. I was like weeping, and just like my whole body was tingling, and it was a very out of body experience that I've never felt in my life before or since. So that concert, specifically the end of that concert, but you know, for a few times before that song, was definitely some Stendhal syndrome moments.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Hopefully everyone can experience
I
that
know, yeah.
at some point. It's funny
Yeah.
you say that, because like, apparently a lot of the cases of it happen around like Florence, France, and Italy.
Or seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also Rome.
Yeah, also Rome and Segura.
Yeah.
I can believe post rock definitely live could
Yeah.
invoke that.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, I think I, made this long enough. Took up enough of your time. This is Justin Snow of Antigravitybunny Radio and A Thick Mist. He has a website at antigravitybunny.com where you can listen to everything. He posts up all your stuff. The archive's still there of AGB.
Yep.
Thick Mist all the time. Little
Yep.
description of what you got.
Yep.
Individual track listings to click play on.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's helpful.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. This was a pleasure.
No, thank you. I mean, he's a big influence on my channel. I want to spread the word of good music.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes. All right.